What's going on, guys? This is Carl with the Racer Red channel. This is day 2 of riding the new to me 2008 Yamaha YZF-R1. I wanted to do a quick little video about how to buy a used motorcycle. I think a lot of people make mistakes when they get a used one, and I definitely do. So I try to be thorough, and nothing is perfect. That's one thing to realize, is no bike is going to be perfect, especially when it's older. This bike is extremely rare to find in good condition because it's got a lot of horsepower and people abuse them and cartwheel them down the street. This one is in very uncommon condition. First things first, never buy a motorcycle that doesn't have a clean title. So that's the first thing you want to look at and look into, which I've done that out of order before, but in fact I did it out of order on this bike. I didn't ask about the title until right before I went and looked at it. However, you definitely want to do that, so don't even look at a bike unless it has a title. You want to make sure that you're 100% the owner of that bike when you get it. Second tip is that you should, and this is going to sound pretty judgmental, but it's not meant to be, and that is that you should look for signs that the owner of the bike is not a motorcycle enthusiast, not somebody who's going to be taking care of a bike. And the biggest sign of that is a sticker that has nothing to do with riding. Weirdly placed stickers. There's one major one, and that's a skull. People use skull stickers. 99% of the time, if they put a skull sticker anywhere on the bike, run away, because that person's not going to change the oil. They don't know anything about bikes. If the sticker doesn't even have anything to do with the industry or doesn't look clean on the bike, it's very likely that the person isn't going to be a person who knows how to maintain their bike or even wants to maintain their bike generally. I think it's probably because, you know, when you see a skull sticker, that's something that has nothing to do with riding, and it's somebody who wants an image but doesn't know the industry at all. So yeah, that's the number one I look for, is skulls. If there's a skull anywhere on the bike, generally that's a good indicator that you're going to have issues with that bike. Smokes. Alright, the third tip I have is to look at the chain and sprocket. It's not always an indicator, but sometimes it is. If it has a good chain and sprocket, that's a kind of a long-term wear item that if they've replaced it, that's a very good sign. And if their chain and sprocket is all, you know, if the chain's all floppy, the sprocket has wear marks in it that aren't exactly U-shaped, then you got a wear item that they're not taking care of. Fourthly, that's just a glance down, you know, glancing down at the chain and sprocket. But fourthly, you want to look at the aesthetics. This goes back to the whole skull sticker thing. Look at the aesthetics of the bike. Pay attention to what they've taken care of on the outside of the bike. Because generally, if a person takes care of the outside of their bike, they're also going to take care of the inside. That's universally true. Same with people. Somebody's taking care of the outside, they're taking care of the inside. Number 5, you want to start it up, you want to listen for engine noise. Any kind of engine noise, rattling, whining, anything like that is not a good sign. So now that you've listened to the engine sounds good, you looked at the outside of the bike, the aesthetics look pretty good. They haven't duct taped anything. They haven't used electrical tape just in random places to cover stuff up. The aesthetics of the bike need to look good because that's how they're taking care of the bike. It's very obvious. It makes it very obvious how they take care of things. Now, take it for a ride. There's a bunch of things you should be looking out for when it comes to riding the bike. First of all, you need to make sure that the gears and the transmission are good. So you want to shift it from first to second all the way up, but you want to give it time in each gear. Make sure that that gear feels good. It's not grinding, it's not clicking. You'll know if the transmission is bad, you'll know. Also, with the clutch, you don't want to clutch that shudders. You don't want it to lunge. You want a nice smooth clutch operation. And then you probably put it in a lower gear and all the way up from idle to red line just once. Just do it once. You don't want to hurt the engine. And you should have already checked the oil as well. I forgot to mention that part. You want to check the oil before your test ride. So go from idle to red line pretty much. Don't hold it up there in red line. Just go once. Just whop and then shift. If it did a good job pulling from idle to red line, there's no issues throughout the rev range, and that's a good running bike. Generally, there could be little things here and there, but so the engine runs really good. The aesthetics are good. They didn't do any hokey mechanic work. It looks nice and clean on the outside. They haven't done any distasteful modifications to it. The transmission is good. The engine runs great. You're good to go, and you've done all that you can for the most part. If you guys have any other tips for buying a used motorcycle, please let me know. These are the ones that I usually do. I look for leaks, of course. You want to check the engine for any kind of seeping or leakage. I've sold and purchased many motorcycles, and people who have bought from me have said some really silly things, so I just want to kind of save you guys from doing that, especially as a new rider. I had one guy who didn't buy my bike because he thought it was leaking oil, and it was clearly splash from the freshly lubed chain, which he should have seen as a good thing, that I lubed my chain often, but he did not, and he thought it was the engine leaking oil. So just things like that, you definitely should know before you go into buying a bike. Honestly, when you're buying a bike from me, it's going to be well maintained. So a lot of people, you know, I could tell you guys horror stories. I went to get an R6 one time, and the guy said it was slightly scratched on one side because he went down. Price was good, so I went and showed up, and both sides of the bike were totaled, and I started up and it ran really rough, like it was about to blow, and the thing was about as bad as a bike can get, and this was a fairly new R6. And I asked him right away, I said, when was the last time you changed the oil? And he looked at me and he said, no, I don't really worry about that. Okay. I was like, well, bye. Run from that situation. That engine was about to blow. Shortly after that, I drove 500 miles, I think, however many miles it was, to Roseburg, Oregon, which is a beautiful place, by the way. And I picked up a 2006 R6 Raven, and it was like showroom quality with 3,000 miles on it. Couldn't have been happier with that bike. So don't get desperate and just pick something up. Make sure you stick to your guns, and if something's wrong with a bike, do not get it. There could be things wrong with a bike that are just horrible and really hard to fix, so it's not worth the headache. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you watching the video. I hope this provided you guys with some value, and yeah, like I said earlier, be sure to add to the conversation. If you guys have something else to add, let me know. I've said pretty much exactly what I do, so I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.